the administration of President Donald Trump has officially announced a temporary exemption from newly introduced customs tariffs on smartphones, laptops, and various other electronic devices. This move is aimed at reducing the impact on American consumers while protecting major technology companies such as Apple and Samsung. The decision, released late last night by U.S. Customs and Border Protection, significantly narrows the scope of the sweeping tariffs previously put in place by the administration. Initially, these tariffs imposed a staggering 125% duty on goods imported from China, alongside a base 10% tariff on products coming from the rest of the world. The newly issued exemption covers a wide array of in-demand electronic goods, including smartphones, laptops, hard drives, computer processors, and memory chips, products which are mostly manufactured outside the United States. Building domestic production lines for these items would take years, so the administration decided to delay the full impact of its tariff plan. The move is also tied to the intention of avoiding multiple layers of overlapping tariffs on entire sectors, which would have caused a sharp rise in consumer prices. By issuing these exclusions, the government aims to relieve pressure on the American tech industry and preserve affordability for everyday consumers. Another key part of this exemption includes machinery used in semiconductor manufacturing. This is a crucial development for companies like TSMC, which have made large investment commitments in the United States. The decision is seen as part of a broader strategy to strengthen the domestic supply chain while avoiding a sudden rupture in international production and logistics. Instead of destabilizing existing supply networks, the goal appears to be a gradual reshaping of manufacturing geography, with incentives for companies to shift part of their operations back to U.S. soil over time. Major beneficiaries of this exemption include Apple and other tech giants. Products such as the iPhone, MacBook, iPad, and Apple Watch are now excluded from both the 125% tariff applied to Chinese imports and the 10% duty for goods from other countries. The exemption also extends to a variety of essential electronic components like GPUs, SSDs, semiconductor chips, display panels, and many TV models. However, some items still remain subject to tariffs. Devices such as AirPods, HomePods, and popular gaming consoles, including the anticipated Nintendo Switch 2, did not make the exemption list and will face additional costs at the border. Additionally, while these products are shielded from the recently implemented tech tariffs, they are still subject to a separate 20% tariff applied to Chinese imports as part of a policy targeting fentanyl production and trafficking. That tax continues to affect a wide range of products, including many Apple devices. As such, the relief offered by this exemption is only partial and may prove to be short-lived. This wave of exclusions stems from a broader policy framework, aimed at preventing the stacking of multiple tariffs within the same product category. However, this does not prevent the government from introducing future tariffs specifically targeting some of these products, although they would likely be lower than the extreme 125% rate initially announced. Semiconductors, in particular, have been at the heart of tariff speculation. President Trump has repeatedly spoken about the importance of regulating these critical components through targeted duties, although no specific rate has yet been implemented. The current exemptions may be laying the groundwork for a future wave of more focused tariffs with lower rates designed to strike a balance between protecting U.S. interests and maintaining technological competitiveness. At the moment, the sector-specific tariffs introduced by the Trump administration hover around 25%, though the final rate for chips and related components remains uncertain. The administration has not disclosed whether it intends to lock in these rates or adjust them once further economic assessments are completed. Officials have refrained from making definitive statements, likely to maintain flexibility in their negotiations with international partners and domestic industries. The immediate market response to the exemption was positive. Stock prices of major tech companies rose noticeably following the announcement. Apple, in particular, experienced a rebound in its share value as the decision directly protects its most profitable product lines. Investors saw this as a sign that the company would be able to weather tariff-related challenges without passing significant costs on to consumers. Dell Technologies and other hardware manufacturers also saw stock gains, as they too produce much of their hardware overseas and stood to suffer under the original tariff structure. The semiconductor sector, which includes companies like NVIDIA, AMD, and Western Digital, also showed signs of investor confidence. While their products are still partially affected by existing tariffs, the exemption for semiconductor manufacturing equipment could ease future production costs and encourage additional domestic investment. Many analysts believe this move signals the government's intent to gradually build a self-sustaining semiconductor ecosystem within the U.S., but in a way that avoids disrupting ongoing business relationships and global supply chains. Still, despite the short-term relief, officials within the administration have warned that these exemptions are temporary. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick made it clear that these measures are intended to buy time while the government crafts a more tailored tariff strategy, particularly one focused on semiconductors and high-end electronic components. The administration has stated that while it wants to protect U.S. interests and reduce dependency on foreign manufacturing, it does not intend to shock the market with sudden, sweeping tariffs that could result in runaway inflation or tech shortages. President Trump has long maintained a strong stance in favor of tariffs, often referring to them as a powerful tool for reshaping global trade. He has argued that the pain of short-term price increases is worth the long-term benefits of bringing manufacturing jobs back to the U.S. According to his administration, early signs suggest that tariffs have already encouraged companies like Apple and TSMC to commit to expanding their manufacturing presence in the country. Several firms have announced large investment plans and construction projects aimed at building new chip factories, server farms, and supply chain facilities on American soil. Nevertheless, public opinion on the tariff strategy remains divided. Some economists warn that even temporary tariffs can distort markets, raise prices, and harm small businesses that depend on affordable imports. Others argue that these policies are necessary to rebuild the industrial base and reduce national security vulnerabilities. Within the tech industry, the response has been mixed as well. While some companies welcome the exemptions, they remain cautious about what might happen once the temporary relief expires. Behind the scenes, there are signs that the administration is trying to strike a careful balance. It wants to avoid driving up prices for consumers, especially ahead of election season, but also feels pressure to demonstrate strength in trade negotiations. Sources close to the matter suggest that the exemptions were also timed to prevent a wave of price hikes that could have affected millions of Americans who rely on smartphones, laptops, and tablets for work, education, and daily communication. Meanwhile, American tech firms are using the breathing room to reassess their long-term strategies. Apple, for instance, is accelerating its efforts to diversify manufacturing beyond China, with increased production in countries like India and Vietnam. Other companies are expanding partnerships with Southeast Asian manufacturers or exploring automation technologies that could eventually support cost-effective production in the U.S. In the coming months, the administration is expected to unveil more detailed guidance on tariff policy for semiconductors and electronic components. These new regulations may target specific product categories, supply chain vulnerabilities, or countries of origin. Businesses are watching closely, knowing that today's exemptions might become tomorrow's regulations. As it stands, the temporary exemptions offer a welcome reprieve, but the future of international tech trade under the Trump administration remains in flux. For now, consumers can expect a degree of price stability, and tech companies have a narrow window to prepare for whatever comes next. Whether that future includes a full-scale reshoring of production or a more sophisticated tariff strategy is yet to be seen, but the direction is clear. The administration wants America to manufacture more and depend less. This evolving policy landscape will shape not only how technology is made, but also how it is sold, used, and priced in the years ahead. As tensions continue between the U.S. and major trading partners, particularly China, the role of tariffs in shaping global electronics will likely remain a dominant issue in both economic planning and political discourse. For now, the exemption acts as a pause in an ongoing economic chess game, one that could redefine the rules of global tech trade for decades to come.